Hello, everyone. Welcome to another exciting installment of our regular webinars we're doing. This one is going to be a great one for a very important topic, and we have a great pair of guests. But first, hey, Phil, like my usual sidekick for all these webinars now. How are you
everyone.
doing?
Yeah, I'm good, and you?
Excellent. Yeah, it's a great Wednesday. It's getting warmer here in Montreal, so no complaints there.
No, snow.
Yeah, although I wish it didn't rain like the past week or so because it's killing a bit of the ski season. But what can you do? But yeah, it's definitely spring is always a good thing. So yeah, today we have our solution partner Kinetic Vision that we've been working together for a couple of years now already. So Alex Doukas, and you've probably seen him. He was part of our user event last November as well. And Jacob Holbrook, which is his first webinar that he's doing. So we're going to try to throw in a few curveballs in the process. Hey, guys.
Hey, how's it going?
Doing pretty good. Like, we're really excited about this because we're doing a lot of things with Kinetic Vision. So obviously, I'll let Alex explain a bit more about their business and everything. But obviously, we're developing something that's quite ambitious, and we need to have solution partners that will help us to the end of the delivery with our customers, right? We're definitely focused to be a software company, and we try to minimize our service engagements. And so why we have partners like Kinetic Vision that are there to work with us in collaboration and really helping us make our customers successful. So maybe Alex, you can take a few minutes just to explain Kinetic Vision and what you're doing. And is there like a obligatory rule of wearing a beard when you're working at Kinetic Vision?
I think so. Yeah. Well, thanks, Michelle, and thanks, Philippe. Appreciate you guys having us on here. So yeah, Kinetic Vision is a product development and innovation firm out of Cincinnati, Ohio, in the States. About 200 engineers strong and technical individuals and creative artists. And I know a number of you guys have heard me talk at the Connection event and another webinar. But we really use advanced technologies to go ahead and accelerate innovation. And Prevu3D is just one of those technologies that we leverage. We have a number of different skill sets, different tools in our toolbox to go ahead and leverage to really make use of data, right? And really, that's where Prevu3D comes into play for us. Reality capture is becoming so prevalent in industry right now, and really, it's one of the best conduits to help us enable our ability to go ahead and get digital twins off the ground. So from that perspective, we help actually acquire the data. So we have a long history in metrology. Prevu3D helps us enable the ability for us to go ahead and actually derive those different reality assets. And then once we're able to go ahead and use Prevu3D to not only derive the assets but manipulate the data, measure different assets, reconfigure within that space, we can then take it to the next step. So a space that we've lived in for a number of years, since about 1985, is based on structural analyses. So think like virtual testing. So virtual drop tests, looking into top loads on the consumer package space, looking into fatigue while you're running a product down the line. Flash forward really to today, where we're looking at more of a macro scale. And even if we zoom out from like the R&D application, if we're looking into supply chain, that's where reality assets can really come into play. And that's where digital twins really make a more prevalent stance on their use. And that's where the second, the back end of Prevu3D really comes into play, where we can leverage the reality assets to go ahead and create simulated environments and simulated assets to go ahead and trial things digitally before we ever physically have to go ahead and deploy. So you can iterate 100 times if you want to on let's say environment layout or where AGVs or where AMRs are going to be placed. And you don't have to do that physically until you go to actually physically deploy, and hopefully that's the only time you do it. So that's where we're leveraging Prevu3D and a number of tools to go ahead and really advance our ability to innovate quickly.
Great, thanks for the introduction. Really good about this. For anyone attending this webinar, definitely feel free to ask any questions on LinkedIn or onto the live stream. We like to make these interactive, so you want to know anything, have any questions, there's no hard questions. And so we are more than happy to answer anything you have. So obviously, Alex, you've talked about RealityAssets, and that's a really important initiative that we started last year, because obviously we're known for taking 3D scanning data and creating these beautiful meshes. But when you look at it, our eyes are seeing things, but the computer basically sees like points in space or triangles, and it's not really a structured data model. And so we've been working at the notion of like how to create semantics or how to segment or structure the unstructured data of a scan into a logical layer. And that's what we call a reality asset. And a key part of what we'll present today is really part of this strategy, that not only we want to have these assets segmented and clickable within Prevu3D, but we'll talk a lot about, well, whatever we manage in Prevu3D, you often need it somewhere else as well. And so obviously the key topic for today will be Omniverse. And so how to help customers, engineers, designers, and other users to not only manage the data accordingly, but to make it seamless to move data around. And so we'll definitely talk a lot about that today. And so let me start with Phil showing a few of these videos explaining this notion of reality asset, right? So here in here, for example, like we have some piping, and we'll use our latest piping tool that allows you to, in a few seconds, do a few clicks, and you're able to very quickly isolate this object. And at first, it looks like we're just drawing a line across the piping system, but actually, what we're going to end up creating is a volumetric shape of where this asset exists in this scan mesh model, as you can see here. And so this is really more of an advanced way of defining the shape and isolating shapes of objects, even complex shapes like you're seeing here. This is not a simple rectangle, a single rectangle shape. It's a very complex shape, and this is a quick first example here. And really, this is key to what we've been building at Prevu3D for the past year, is really, helping customers isolate the assets within their environment. So either you just want to isolate these assets because you want to move them around and do some design layout in our design tools, but also sometimes you just want also this data to go somewhere else. And so again, back to the topic of today is Omniverse. And yes, Prevu3D, we do support the USD file format to bring data to Omniverse, or other file formats like FBX, OBJ, and GLB. We have a whole list of file formats we support. But when you talk to customers, really the challenge is like, okay, great, you support all these file formats, fantastic. They still need to understand and to be a master of like, okay, I'm in Prevu, I've isolated this object, I need to extract this object, save it to a given file format with the right specification. Is this Y up, Z up, what coordinate system I'm using, georeferencing information. And then you have to move this into the other software. You need to make sure you're using the right file format with the right specification for all of this to work successfully. So it's an undocumented part of the process that's very painful for most users, as they don't complain about the time wasted on moving around data, but it is a very painful process. And so as we start to build these product-to-product integration points, basically allowing the other software talking to Prevu3D and say, okay, hey, I need this piping or this conveyor belt in a certain mesh density into this other software, and then we'll service the data. And that's what we'll show you through this integration with Omniverse. And the reason why we have Kinetic Vision on the webinar today is for a couple of reasons. One is that they're definitely one of our key solution partners, but we've been together a NVIDIA Omniverse partner for several years. And actually it's NVIDIA that did a bit of the matchmaking here. So kudos to NVIDIA for that, where they're like telling us, you need to talk to Kinetic Vision, and I'm sure they did the same thing to Kinetic Vision, so you need to talk to Prevu3D, and we've been working together since then. So the other part is obviously one thing we've been doing is like finding partners that can also help build these integration points. And again, Kinetic Vision has a lot of software developers, including Jacob, that is on this webinar. And so we asked our Kinetic Vision to help us build this Omniverse integration point. And that's what we'll show. And maybe Alex and Jacob can talk a bit more about your involvement on this and how where you're seeing the value of such integration point.
Sure. Jacob, do you want to take it, or do you want me to?
Go ahead, Alex.
Okay. Yeah, I think for me, really the workflow efficiency is really one of the biggest value adds here. You'll see here in a moment the process that Jacob helped develop, where it really is streamlined to really, defining the asset within Prevu3D and or the environment, and bringing that into Omniverse really in a streamlined way. So that flow, in essence, has been really instrumental in our ability to get assets off the ground in Omniverse quickly. To really just handling that barrier to entry has been really beneficial. And then beyond that, really having more control over the assets and making it to where you don't have to go into like a preprocessor software, makes it to where it makes it really functionally a really nice tool to use from end to end. So.
Exactly. And so, historically, people are conditioned to say, I'll need to bring some point cloud or these massive, large meshes to different systems. And most software are not really well designed to handle large amount of data at once, right? And so, yes, you can load up the whole point cloud, then you'll need to create some section areas and clipping it. And it's a very painful process if not only counting to have to generate often multiple versions of the same data with different densities. It's a lot of manual process back and forth. And so what we'll see in this video, can we continue playing the video as well? Yeah, thank you. Is really how this becomes a lot more seamless. And yeah, so behind the covers, there's a lot of data file transfers happening, but the goal and what we've done as an integration point is to make that seamless to the user. So the developers, basically Jacob, has been taking, let's say, the pain of building this to say, making the whole data transfer between Prevu3D and Omniverse a transparent process. So the user then just needs to focus about, okay, what is the data that I need to bring to Omniverse and do what I need to do here. And so that's what you're seeing in the video. Maybe Alex, you can talk a bit more about the kind of use cases you've been doing in bringing this type of data, reality capture data from Prevu into Omniverse in some of your customer projects.
Yeah, for sure. We've worked with a number of Fortune 500 companies where we've, maybe scanned a manufacturing space, and they want to tie in, some real world sensor data to their equipment, and they want to help visualize that and democratize the data across, many different platforms, and then also many different people. So this really helps us enable our ability to get from scan data through the process of asset segmentation and reality asset definition into Omniverse really quickly. And then once we do that, we're able to start piping in, IoT data to go ahead and really help visualize, different aspects and really help make business decisions for optimization. So there could be instances where somebody has, years and years of data and they really don't know how to help visualize it, and maybe they don't have CAD of their full facility. So that's really where the scan data really helps bridge the gap. Same thing comes to mind with AGVs or AMRs. Autonomous vehicles are becoming more and more useful. So from that perspective, really a lot of folks don't have CAD or a real basis of how their environment is actually built out or as built. So that's where the scan data really comes into play. It helps enable our ability to really help build out that footprint of the environment, bring that into Omniverse, and leverage that to go ahead and do like AGV and AMR deployment virtually before we ever deploy physically. So it's a pretty neat process.
Absolutely.
So maybe you have something to add.
I was just going to add what you're talking about with segmentation earlier. One of the great things you can do is you can segment out those objects and you can move them around to help facilitate that process of where the AGV is going to go and things like that.
And so, what you are seeing currently on the screen, basically in the first video, we shown how to define assets. So the conveyor was defined within the original reality capture data inside Prevu3D. So that conveyor that we see currently on the screen. And through the RealityConnect plugin over here inside Omniverse, you are able to query the assets and get all the assets that were existing on Prevu3D side and bring them into Omniverse quite smoothly. And you can pick the quality level that you want and a few other parameters, but it's quite a straightforward process. You just query them, press import, select the one that you desired, press import, and they come inside your scene. I don't know if Jacob, you want, or Alex, you want to elaborate a bit on that. I know there's some options as well to save on Nucleus as well. So
yeah, so default is it pulls in what you've selected into the open scene. If you have a lot of different segmented reality assets, you can also save them to your disk. You can save them to Nucleus, where they're shared with other people in your company. That way, they're available as kind of a library of things if you've got different warehouses or environments that you want certain objects in. It just helps make the whole process easier.
Absolutely. And the key here is that Reality first gives you amazing visual context of what exists, right? And so it accelerates in a few things. First, acceleration on understanding the space, because you're seeing reality as it exists, but also, as much as sometimes you need to have these CAD models and you still need to do that, well, the whole point is to parallelize or accelerate multiple iteration steps. So maybe while you have some designers building these CAD equivalents of these scan assets, you can already start working and setting up your Omniverse environment with the 3D scan objects. There's obviously parts of your environment, often like, let's say if you're redesigning a data center, well, the walls and the pillars won't really change as part of the redesign of the space. So why model that in CAD if you just can use the reality capture version of it, and really focus where you need to do CAD modeling, where you need to model new designs or new elements that didn't exist before, and combining reality existing as built solution elements with new elements and making this all a more accelerated and faster design process or visualization process or simulation process, and get to the answers. Because ultimately we all look to get to answers about, is this possible? Can we do this? How we do this? And so on. And the goal is to accelerate that in many ways.
That's well said. Yep.
I think we do have another video that showcases a little bit more like the configure that we imported, but now in context of like another USD file which represent the factory. But we could imagine that it's kind of a greenfield project, but you need to reuse some existing equipment and redesign, like design a layout in a new facility that is not existing yet. So like being able to merge data that was captured with scanners with the greenfield environment can be quite beneficial. So this way you don't need to remodel everything manually. And I think, Alex, you did model that conveyor at some point, or your team did it.
Yeah.
I guess it took a couple of hours just to model that, where over here we see that it's been reduced drastically, and you can quickly do like those simulations where you duplicate the assets, change the layouts and things like that. And maybe you can elaborate a bit more on the time it saves and the benefits of being able to import reality capture data as part of the greenfield projects.
Yeah, I think Michel really said it well. Yeah, I think we're really using it. We're using it when and where it makes the most sense, and that's really where you just need quick visualizations of the assets within the scene that's maybe pre-developed or pre-populated, but you don't need to parametrically model. I mean, we utilize parametric modeling tools. If we wanted to go ahead and build out a representative line of this, and I think we showed that asset earlier. Do that within standardized parametric modeling tools like a SolidWorks, for instance. But if we just need to simply visualize the asset within, like you said, a greenfield or brownfield development site that was previously captured, or this is a new parametric file that you're leveraging the assets for, it's much easier for us to go ahead and get the assets into the space quickly via this new connector. So that's really where it's just enabled us to get those assets into the scene much quicker than we were previously. So I think a lot of folks will find that it's really beneficial and really breaking down the barrier of having to do a bunch of downloads, uploads, and maybe even taking this into a preprocessor. Those are kind of like barrier points in my mind to make it to where it's an efficient workflow, or even people even utilizing the assets. Now it's just a couple button clicks and the data's there. So it should make it a lot easier.
Exactly. it's time to success, right? Like how any minute lost because you're waiting on some file to be saved, to be moved, and all that stuff, and you make it more seamless. It makes you focus on what is really the real work. The real work is not to move data around. It's to actually do these kind of designs or simulations or other things you're looking to do to actually do what you're paid to do. Nobody's paid to move data around. Maybe some data wranglers, but most people are not paid to be doing that full time.
I guess it can empower as well users that has like a less technical background, so the one that are not able to model everything, but they would like still to play with them. And I know that we had like a comment in the chat that it's like Lego bricks that you can move around.
Exactly.
I guess that's a little bit this in a certain way.
Absolutely. Is there any other questions on the audience? Definitely, we'd love to take any questions about this. One question I was expecting, but I'll ask it myself. So when is this Omniverse connector available? And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it's going to be by end of the week, early next week, right? That we're going to make it publicly available. So it's right around the corner. So if anyone's interested, please email us at info@prevu3d.com, or just go to our website and fill up a form to get some information. And if you are already connected to one of our account managers, feel free to reach out to them and ask to access this. Definitely something that we'll see a lot of usage for a bit. So there's a question here about, does the software allow for GTNT? Actually, I don't even know what that means. Alex?
That would be more traditional metrology. I would say that, Omniverse isn't purpose built for that. That's traditionally where we're using other softwares like a Geomagic, CoTem Smart Profile, Polyworks to conduct GNT assessments. It's not really purpose built for that application, at least not yet. NVIDIA keeps adding more and more capability to that tool. It's really intended to be almost like a Rosetta Stone to help visualize and utilize assets. It's not really intended for metrology, but that's something. I mean, if you're ever interested, feel free to reach out, and we could help you out with what you're looking to do.
We know it does facilitate the conversion process between the different tool sets. That's a really good thing that it does. So if you have a tool that does support that, then you can create something there and then bring it over here and mix that with assets from Prevu3D or wherever.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And for me, like with a bit of a spin on my history. So as some of you might know, my first company created the FBX file format, which is one of the industry formats for interchanging 3D, and kind of see what we're doing at Prevu3D. So be sort of the FBX of reality capture, but not at the file format level, but at the platform to product level, to really make data movable between platforms. And that's definitely something that the focus here is to make it as seamless. So where people say, I need this asset to go here in this other product. And so that's the key. And basically the goal is to make this directional. So getting data out of Omniverse into Prevu3D as well. And we already had announced recently like the Revit, and we'll have more coming soon. And so basically building this whole web of different connection points with different CAD design and simulation software to make this all seamless to move asset level objects, either at the CAD version or the reality capture version of it, to be movable across different solutions.
Yeah, I think we also have one more thing that we can show is like we discussed, obviously RealityAssets is kind of the core of our functionalities where like everything is related to assets, but there's also some ways to import the full 3D scenes. So in that case, you can do the opposite of what we discussed earlier. Instead, if you have like a brownfield project and you need to contextualize your new equipment in that brownfield environment, that's where it could be beneficial to bring your full reality capture data. I know in Omniverse we need to put some light on, so let's speed up that video a little bit. But once you have like some lighting in the space, you see that we can visualize the 3D data like we do inside Prevu3D in a way. So afterwards you can import other equipments.
Yeah, so some nice control there for lighting conditions, different shading aspects. We use it for really creating like really high fidelity visual representations of spaces, and obviously Prevu3D has a lot of capability there as well. But if you wanted to leverage this to create like synthetic environments, for instance, and you want to leverage this to maybe even start building out a machine vision system. That's where we're leveraging Omniverse to really get things off the ground quickly, and actually help synthetically train a machine vision system to understand what and where are things the right way they are supposed to look, and pre-train models before you ever deploy. So day one, you're able to deploy. So then this would help with that process. So if you're trying to create like a emulated conveyance line or an emulated layout, you already have that predefined virtually before you ever have it done physically.
Yeah. And I think that the one key for me is that there's not really any single tool that does it all, right? So that's where you need these type of interop and connective point, because you need to do something in Preview, then you'll go into Omniverse, or you might do something in SolidWorks like you talked before for some parametric modeling. And ultimately, it's like, how do we make these products talk to each other in a way that the data flows seamlessly, and then you get to the end results you're looking for, right? And there's different choices of how you need to process the data. If you're trying to do like a hyper realistic, 3D environment for a specific presentation, then definitely going into Omniverse and using it there makes a lot of sense. If you just want to do a quick, interactive, collaborative environment to share a new design layout and share this on the web with some of your stakeholders, then using our web platform to share this data makes sense. It's all about making this wherever you need the data needs to move seamlessly, and then you provide the tools that make sense for the different usage.
Yeah. Yep. And I did want to mention, I know that Omniverse is a newer tool to a lot of folks. If you're really just trying to kick the tires on this and say, man, I've heard of Omniverse and I really want to, get more within the environment and get the most of it, we're happy to help kind of shepherd anybody that's really interested in learning more about it. So if you all want to set up some time with me, I'm sure my contact information will be given. But that's where we have a relationship with NVIDIA, like Michel mentioned, and that's where we can really help, really guide you on the right ways and maybe the ways that aren't as beneficial to use the tool, and really kind of kickstart your all's efforts. So.
Absolutely. Is there any other question on the audience? It's been a bit quiet on that front. I like when there's a lot of questions happening, because we want this to be an interactive process, not just us. Like, I like talking, but I prefer answering questions, to be honest. Any other last questions? Anyone?
In any case, we will also answer on the comments on LinkedIn. If you leave like comments later on, we can always get back there.
Yeah.
And next week we will also announce our release as well.
We have more stuff to be announced. Yeah, basically now we have every month a release with a lot of goodies, and so there's even more stuff next week that's coming out, and some pretty big features we've been working for a while on improving, namely how to import large CAD models inside of Prevu3D. That's something that we've made a significant improvement on that. That's coming out next week. So a lot of good stuff like that the development team has been, both our internal team and the collaborations like we've been doing with Kinetic Vision and others, has been definitely pumping a lot of cool features. Like I like one of our customers, like in the past few days, compared to us like moving at the speed of a Learjet, which I really like the analogy. And so yes, we're definitely moving really fast. Question from Nicholas about support for Unreal and Unity. There's different ways. Obviously, we don't have this specific RealityConnect integration point in Unity or Unreal at this point, but you can definitely bring in various 3D file formats, including OBJ, FBX, GLBs. We also export cesium tiles. So if you want to export a full mesh environment as a cesium tile set, that will work for any software that supports cesium tiling. So that definitely is something as well that we allowed to do with Unreal and Unity. If you have additional questions about Unity or Unreal, we certainly have additional integration points that are not necessarily publicly available, but we can definitely talk to one-on-one with specific customers if you have more questions about that. Also see that Matthew, hey Matt.
Data is in Omniverse. They do have connectors to Unreal and Unity. So
as well.
Kind of the hub.
Matt has a question about, can Omniverse act as a Git? So I think it would be around Nucleus, I would guess, right?
Yeah, so Nucleus does have some versioning capabilities. It's not exactly Git, but you can save version history. Yes.
Yeah.
Does that kind of central repo? I know we're running out of
Absolutely.
time.
Yeah, well, it's an interesting question because as much as we do have some hosting capabilities for data into our system, like one of our view at Prevu3D is that there's data scattered in a lot of places at the enterprise level. And as much as people want to centralize, it really happens because there's always conditions where you either acquire companies or there's different groups, different needs. And we've been working a lot to make data connected and accessible instead of just saying, hey, we'll just bring all the data to our place, right? Because that's the obvious engineer answer to say, well, let's bring everything into one place. But it's more about, making sure that you keep connectivity where data is, wherever it is. And yes, it's convenient to centralize as much as you can. One question that Lars has regarding asset management and visual asset management for execution, and that's a good point where often enterprise level companies will already have some level of an asset information system, asset management system, but they'll lack the contextual information about, okay, they can see the pump, but they don't see the pump contextualized into where they are, where it is into the facility. And so this is something that we have different integration points. For one, you can embed with a permalink URL, a point of interest for an asset and share that link and put that link into an asset management solution and then use that to launch a window web view of our solution. You can also actually embed an iframe of our solution within other applications. Again, these are things that we're building to make visual capabilities and data accessibility accessible in various ways, because there's not a single way that people want. They want so many ways to make things connected and accessible.
Yeah, on our side, if I may add, we don't want to replace existing asset management solutions, but more adding that visibility, that visible layer on top to contextualize information. So also there's more coming up pretty soon to tie in information. So as you can see now, we can attach metadata to those assets. So there's more coming up to fetch those informations from other systems. So that will be a subject that we will cover pretty soon.
Yeah, in the next several months, there'll be several webinars where they'll showcase a lot more of what we've been building lately. And it's pretty exciting to this notion of having connected assets to different engineering and CAD design and simulation workflows, but also connecting operational data. So ERPs, PLMs, and MES systems and so on connected as well to that same ecosystem. So really bridging engineering to operational use cases, and it's really part of our core of what we've been building over the past while. And so it's pretty exciting to see all the pieces coming together. Really happy about this, and it's great when we talk to our customers where they confirm that we are doing the right things. They just want us to go faster, even faster than we're moving faster right now.
Is that possible?
So, I think we're hitting maximum capacity,
right?
But yeah, don't tempt me to ask the developers to go faster. But
you guys move pretty quick. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely one comment we've been getting, that how fast we've become on how we're moving and developing things, and yeah, it's pretty exciting to see that. And there's anybody that's seen us a year or 2 years ago, when they see today what we've done, they're usually like pretty mind blown, because it's a whole different business, it's a whole different product from what it was a couple of years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So if there's no other questions, maybe some last comment, Alex and Jacob. Jacob, congrats, you survived your first webinar. So
thank you again for having us. It's been a pleasure to be a part of the process. I hope that people get some great traction out of it. Like I mentioned earlier, I'd love to hear some use cases out of some people. I'm sure I'll hear of them funneled through Michel and the Prevu3D team, but if you guys are ever wanting to talk shop, we're here as well as development partners. So let us know how we can help. And again, thank you for letting us be a part of the process.
Absolutely, it's always a pleasure. And for those of you that are Europe-based or planning to go to Europe pretty soon, we'll be at Hannover Messe end of the month. If you don't know Hannover Messe, it's probably one of the largest manufacturing show in the industry. It's like 16 football stadiums of exhibit. And so definitely we'll be there in Hall 17, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, thanks for the comment, Kyle. Yes, definitely an incredible journey and evolution of the product, and you haven't seen nothing yet. If you think we've changed a lot over the past year, the next 12 months is as much changes in the positive side of things to really build an amazing suite of solution to enable a lot of use cases around the whole manufacturing industry and beyond, of course. Thank you, everyone. This has been a really good show. Thanks, Alex and Jacob. Really great to have you here, and talk to you soon.
Thanks for having us.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.